What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Buckeye-Film-Breakdown. We are here tonight to discuss the Michigan Wolverines making a hire finally. As always, I'm Jeremy. Opposite side of the screen, we got Coach Slate, and the Wolver Weasels have got their guy. You're not going to convince me it's the guy they truly wanted. I think he is still coaching in the playoffs, but they are bringing in Kyle Whittingham, the longtime Utah head coach for the last 20 years, been there since 1994. I know you're a big fan of the guy, so just let's hop right into it. What does he bring to the table coaching wise for these guys?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Coach Whittingham. I mean, anytime you can be a head coach somewhere for 21 seasons and you don't get fired, that says a lot. And he's done a lot for that program. Won 177 games as a head coach. Like that is impressive. And the fact that he's been able to stick around for that long, that is fantastic. That's a head coach's dream. I will always root for, prior to him becoming the Michigan head coach, I will always root for defensive head coaches. I think there should be more of them. They bring a mindset and a grittiness to the game, and I think that's what Michigan needs, and I think that's what they wanted. And so I think that is something that they will get out of him, and he's the polar opposite of what they've had. And it wipes their hands clean of a certain era of football, and now they get to usher in a new era that has been, scandal free, drama free, and it's got this guy who has just ran the program at Utah the right way for such a long time. And so you're getting a defensive minded guy who likes to run the football, who wants to be extremely physical, who's built his program off defense and running the ball. And he's done that for 21 seasons. And what's Michigan like to do? You can't blame them for wanting to go this route. So, I mean, for them, I think this is given, maybe not getting who they wanted. I think this is a good backup plan. I think this is better than what they wanted. I think he's a really good coach. He's one of the best in the country and has been for 20 plus seasons. And I think Urban Meyer set him up really well, very similar to how Urban, set Coach Day up. And it's a good move for the team up north, and this will be it'll be a test for Coach Whittingham, though. Obviously, been at Utah for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit on it. Defensive minded, has coached every position group on the defensive side of the football, which is kind of a mixed bag as far as head coaches go. You see some defensive minded guys kill it, and then like even to go to the NFL, I thought Robert Salo was going to be an amazing head coach, and it just never clicked. As far as you hit on the 177 wins, he's 11-6 in bowl games. Very much the anti Jim Harbaugh. He's
Yeah.
very hard nosed. He's not quirky. He's going to be about his business, and he is the absolute perfect fit for them with what they need right now. But the guy's 66 years old. I
Yeah.
don't think he's anything but a stopgap, though.
Yeah, and that is the tough part about all of this. If you are a program looking for a head coach, and given the situation that Michigan is coming out of, you need somebody that's going to right the ship, and you've got to find the right person. And sometimes finding that right person might be somebody that's a little bit older, especially if you don't land some of those hot names right now, like the Dillinghams, the Kyle DeBoers, and those type of guys. And so when you have to right the ship, you're going to land on somebody that's maybe a little bit older. Now, Kyle Whittingham, you can look at him, you could tell he takes care of himself, but he still is 66 years old. And so he did sign a 5-year contract. So he's still planning on coaching until, he's past 70 years old. We see a lot of people do that. Nick Saban coached till he's past 70 years old. So it's still very possible. He could coach till he's 72, 73 years old, and it will be fine. But I would like to know who he's going to bring in on his staff, because it's very likely that who he brings in is likely going to be the head coach in waiting, right? They want to make sure that they're bringing in those hot young coordinator names so that they can really develop them and then they get the right guy after that. And so you see that with a lot of programs now. Obviously, we see that at Utah with Morgan Scalley, one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. He was named the head coach in waiting because Utah didn't want to lose him. You're going to see that with teams or schools that hire these older coaches. You've got to bring in these young hot commodities as coordinators, and you got to keep them around. And how do you do that? You say, hey, if we are successful on offense or defense, whatever the coordinator is, you're going to be the next guy. And so, will that be a situation that Michigan does? I don't know. Sharon Moore kind of burned them on that, but we'll see. But hiring a 66-year-old coach it's a tough spot to be in. But at the same time, given where they're at as a program, I think it was the right thing to do.
That was my next question. So that was a perfect lead in. We saw them get somewhat played as this process happened. Everybody thought it was going to be Dillingham, signs the extension. And we kind of saw the same thing happen to Penn State. Is this a wake-up call for the University of Michigan that maybe you're not as high up on the pecking order as you think you are?
I mean, it very well could be. I mean, it depends on how you look at this, right? I mean, obviously, Coach Dillingham, young coach, very well respected in the coaching circles. Obviously, young guy who took Arizona State to the playoff last year with a very young roster, talented roster. He's a very good coach, but he's also an Arizona State alum. So, I mean, it's going to be very hard to pull him from that place. And then you look at it, you're bringing in a legend of a coach. So, I mean, did they really miss or did they mess up? Like, I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. Like, I could see both sides of this. Like, yeah, we missed on that young coach, but we also we settled on a guy who's won 180 games in his career. Like, is that really settling? You know what I mean? And so that's a tough spot to be in, I guess you could say. But at the end of the day, you're getting you're getting a great coach. So if I'm Michigan, I still think I'm Michigan, right? I still think I'm one of those top tier programs that garners all the respect because we just got Kyle Whittingham, who is one of the top 10 coaches, and he's been ranked that since the day he took over at Utah. Like, he's been so well respected in the coaching world. And so they're gonna walk around and still, bang their chests like they're the national champ still from 2023, just because they got this guy and everybody thought they were going to be in shambles, but they ended up with Kyle Whittingham.
You hit on who he's going to bring with him. It does sound like the Utah offensive coordinator, Jason Beck, is going to be coming to Michigan with him. The Utes are averaging 41.1 points a game. Now, granted, they play in the Big 12, and it's no secret they don't really play defense in the Big 12. But they do score points. And I think that has to be obviously attractive to the offensive guys because obviously Michigan has one of the highest paid players in the country and Bryce Underwood. And I think he could be pretty scary in Beck's offense. It's a lot of RPO based stuff. And I think that really plays to his skill set. What do you say from that point of view?
Yeah, I think it could fit very well. I mean, Utah has had a lot of different styles of quarterbacks. I mean, you look at Cam Rising, the excitement that he brought to the game. I mean, even though he was like a eighth or ninth year senior, there was just so much excitement that he brought to the game, whether it was scrambling, whether it was throwing the ball, RPOs, there was so much excitement that he brought. And so I think this is a good move. I think their offense is going to fit, what Michigan wants to do. And it's going to start with everything that they do on the offensive line. Utah has developed, excuse me, very good offensive linemen. They've always had big running backs, physical running backs, and they just need a quarterback that can distribute the ball. I don't know, how Bryce is going to look at this because Utah really hasn't developed that premier quarterback, but they've always had pretty solid college quarterbacks. And so I don't know which way he's going to go with this, but it's very respectable. Like, they put up points and they always have under Kyle Whittingham. The offenses have always been good. But what does that do to a very high profile player? I don't know. So that'll be a tough, thing, but I'm sure Coach Whittingham has already been on the phone with Bryce and talking about like, hey, yeah, like you could be the first one, the first like big time college quarterback that I've had under my belt. That you could really take us to new heights, and he could garner back to his time with Alex Smith and when Urban Meyer was there. And so like that's something that he could really lean on and talk about, that time. And so we'll see. But that would definitely be my first phone call if I was Coach Whittingham. Like, hey, Bryce, if we're gonna get this thing right, it's got to be with you.
Yeah, Bryce absolutely has to be happy. If you are into that kind of thing, Andrew Marsh and Julian Sayin did trade follows on Instagram, according to Ohio State TMZ. It's just kind of funny to see those type of things be what
Yeah.
people look at. I think, we kind of hit on it at the beginning. Was he who they wanted? We don't know. But I think it's who they needed. I think that's probably the best way to really describe what this is going to be. I think it's a combination of you needed to get rid of every shred of the last 10 years or, roughly 10 years. You bring in a guy who, to my knowledge, has never had a single hint of scandal, runs clean programs. Only Michigan can fall up from Sherrone Moore to Kyle Whittingham. But what happens with it will obviously be to be determined. Recruiting wise, how do you see, you take a guy who's been on the West, the Western coast. He's not on the coast, but on the Western quadrant of the United States. Utah is kind of an unheralded hotbed because you have the Church of Latter-day Saints angle.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Polynesian kids who may not get that USC or Oregon offer and still want to stay out west. I mean, there have been some dudes from, that Utah, Idaho area. Tommy Togiai was from out there. You look at like Haskell Garrett. That's a dude who is actually Polynesian, who, could have gone that way. Obviously, Haskell Garrett was getting major offers, not just, at the time, BYU and Utah were kind of looking at that second tier of schools. But what do you think the big struggles and or advantages that, Kyle Whittingham will bring from a recruiting front?
Yeah, I think one of the big advantages that he would bring is that the respect that he has in that region. I mean, being in that region for so long and having recruited that region and won with players from that region, there's going to be a ton of respect that he brings. And so he's going to be trusted in that area. And so you're going to see I don't want to say like an influx, like it's going to be a huge influx of players, but you're going to see more players from that area probably start going to Michigan, which would be good for them. I mean, that will be good for them. The one thing that's going to be important is that he starts to really lay the groundwork for the staff with coaches that are familiar with the Midwest and where Michigan has found success in the recruiting world. You got to be able to do that. And obviously he knows that. He's been doing this for a long time. And so that's going to be very important. Who those coaches are, I don't know. But again, he's on the phone, he's figuring that out. He's reaching out to people that he's made connections with to find those coaches who are going to be monsters on the trail in the areas that he may not have the most familiarity with. It'll be interesting to see who he keeps on the staff who were good recruiters and really recruited well in areas that he is not familiar with. Does Biff stay on staff? Biff does a really good job in the DMV area. Is he going to stay on staff? I did those are things that you just got to work through. Does he want to go super young with the staff because he's a little bit older? I don't know. And so the recruiting side of things, I think he will do well in the regions that he's already done well with, just from a respect thing. He will have to find coaches who will have to really dive deep in the areas that he's not really recruited that well because of just naturally where he's located.
Yeah, I mean, the DMV, Michigan's always done well in New Jersey. That's another kind of hotbed for them. And then you hit on Biff, who kind of came out and made some waves this week. Kind of basically, I forget the exact quote, but I don't want to say slammed the university in the way they've handled things, but it basically said we needed change. So that'll be a very interesting one to see if he stays. Kerry Coombs just got hired before Sharon got fired. Kerry Coombs can recruit his socks off. That's an Ohio guy who walks into any high school in Ohio and automatically gets respect. It doesn't matter what logo is on his chest.
Yep.
Not everybody's favorite coach in Columbus anymore, because that last tenure was kind of mid. But the dude's passionate, but he's also older. I think you have to go younger with the staff, but I will be monitoring very closely to see how this staff rounds out, because that's going to tell you a lot about how they feel the program is going to go over the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Coach Coombs is going to, like you said, gain a ton of respect in whatever building he walks in. And so that's a guy, if I'm Coach Whittingham, hey, I know you were hired by Sharon, but I'm keeping you on staff. That is without a doubt. I don't care how old you are staying on staff. No doubt about it. He's one of the best recruiters in the country, and he's been that way ever since he started coaching in college. And he's very good at special teams. If you just give him those responsibilities, like, he will be more than okay. And so if I'm Coach Whittingham, like, I'm looking at his track record and looking where he's really good at, and he's he's one of the first coaches that are on staff that I'm saying, hey, you just got here. This is a fresh start. You're not a Michigan man. Like, we are starting this thing clean. We're wiping our hands clean of what was, and we're building this thing forward, and we're going to do it with some fresh faces. And Coach Coombs would be one of my first people that I talk to, no doubt about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally concur. And you threw out the term Michigan man. That has ultimately been what has led to the black eye on the program. Coach Harbaugh obviously did his thing, and then you go to a branch off of the Harbaugh tree, and you get this whole situation that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I don't even know the right adjective for it because there's so much about it we don't know yet. And honestly, I don't know that I want to know the more that comes out about it, because it's just like,
Yeah.
how dumb can you be
Yeah.
ultimately? I mean, you know, um, you saw it with their basketball program. You hire a Michigan man and Juwan Howard, and that worked out about as well as the Fab Four. So it's just crazy. And so now you know that there are people up there who are not happy that you had to go to the Urban Meyer coaching tree to clean your program up. But there's some serious irony in that, I think. But at the end of the day, I think it's a great hire for them. Definitely not a sexy hire. And, we talked about it this week off and on it, via text, that I don't know that it moves the needle for me from I'm scared of this hire standpoint, because it just doesn't, I guess, but Dillingham scared me. I will be 100% honest. I did not want Dillingham to go there. I didn't think that they stood a chance at like Brent Key, Clark Lee, those guys. Those are the type of dudes that scare you. That young guy who's passionate, emotional, high energy. Whereas Whittingham's going to be the guy that goes to dinner and wins mom and dad over, but maybe not necessarily the kid.
Yeah, I could see that. I got a lot of respect for Coach Whittingham, man. Like,
Mhm.
it is hard, man. It is hard to stay somewhere as the head coach
Oh my,
for 21
yes.
seasons. Like, that is mind blowing. Like, that you just don't see that anymore. And the fact that
No.
he did it is and won and found success and just did really good things, like, it is crazy. So I got a lot of respect for him and what he's done, and obviously I'm I'm partial. Before he was a Michigan man. Now that I was rooting for him. Now I can't root for him anymore because he's a defensive guy, and you've heard me talk about it with you and Jake. Like, I will always root for defensive coaches to get these jobs. And he's one of the best, and I think he's going to do. I think he could do good things up there. I really do. I think he fits what they need right now, and I think he fits like their identity. And so he's done more with less, I think, and he hasn't had these Michigan resources. He hasn't had people willing to spend 12+ million dollars on a quarterback. And so I just think when you put these resources behind him for the next 5 years, I think he's got potential to do some really good things. And am I necessarily scared? No, not at all. But I think he could do some really good things and put Michigan in a decent spot. And I'm not one of those guys who wants to see Michigan lose every year. I want to see them. I want to see them be undefeated when we play. So when we beat them, it's that much sweeter. And so that's what I want. And I think Coach Whittingham is the right person for that. And it'll be nice to see him and Coach Day build that rivalry because they're both, from that Urban Meyer tree, man. And that's going to be fun to watch. And it'll be fun to see during Big Noon next year when Coach Meyer is talking about both of these guys. Like, that is something I'm going to be excited about because these are two Urban Meyer proteges, man. Like, that's pretty cool for Coach Meyer to have as a notch on his belt and what he's done. So that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, and Urban Meyer, actually, I think it was in like 2023, had the quote about who's the one coach you would not want to coach against. And he said Kyle Whittingham. I
Yep.
mean, like, don't get me wrong. Don't misconstrue my apprehension for it to not be a respect thing, because I do respect the hire and I do think it is good for that program. 1,000%. I think that it is going to, we've reiterated, it's what they need. It's going to kind of right their ship, and who knows what happens. Obviously, on the field we'll know in a year as far as just what's to be expected, because obviously it's going to take a minute to rebuild rooms with what he wants and what his staff wants. But at the end of the day, it's cool that they got their hire. Transfer portal honestly is going to basically coincide with the regular portal now. And I don't know what you'll see. I know there was a recruit that did ask for his release today after the hire was announced. And we'll keep an eye on that type of stuff as well. But we just wanted to hop on here, throw out some thoughts and discuss it, because even though it's not directly related to the Buckeye program, it's a big deal because it's your rival and it's been a story in college football. And that's the type of stuff we like to talk about. So we will get off of here. We got a ton of OSU Miami content coming for you guys this week. We've got Coach and Jake going to do a film breakdown session this weekend. I can't wait to see that myself personally, because there's some things that I've read that I want to see if they see as well. And then obviously, as the game as we lead into the game, we will get you guys, opening drives every day with some different types of content for that. And then once the game's over, get you some reactions and hopefully some more game previews for another week of Buckeye playoffs. And with that, we will see you guys later.